In today's video, we're going to talk about evening routine and how you can actually design one for yourself so that it can really help you to fall asleep in an easy way. Now, the way I will do that today is I'm going to share with you a conversation I had with a client within my group coaching program. So that program is very much designed to take through a client several different ways of improving their sleep and overcoming their long-term insomnia and sleep problems. And this particular client is very much a thinker type. So all the things we're going to talk about, and we will talk about sort of physicalities, emotional things, and mentalities as well, is particular for that dynamic. Now, if you're a different type of person, that will most likely mean that some of these things that I might mention are not going to be relatable to your situation. So please bear that in mind, because when I work with clients, every single evening routine will have to be based on the client's experience and what kind of struggles they have. We all have different lifestyles. We all have different things that actually make us upset or happy. So all the emotions. We all got things that are different in terms of how our mind works, what kind of tendencies we have as a person. So that's always important. And you would have maybe seen videos from me if you're part of my community already on this topic of evening routine. So there are different ways I approach it depending on the client. And today is just one of those examples that is a very practical way for me to show you how I actually coach people and how we can get to a better place. Now, before we go into the content of today's video, and I'll share this answer from the live call with you, I wanted to say thank you so much if you are part of my community already. If you're brand new, then this is the time to hit that subscribe button below, hit that little bell as well, so I can let you know when I post new videos. And later on, hit that like button below as well, so that I know that this is the kind of things you're interested in. And if you don't yet know who I am, then let me quickly just introduce myself. My name is Beatrix Schmidt. I'm a sleep coach, a professional speaker, and the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program. And I use that in both in a one-to-one way and, as you will see, a group sleep coaching way. So the methodology I use applies to all of my work in the same way. And it's very much designed to help with all the practicalities to help you to overcome long-term insomnia and sleep problems. That's what I do all day in my work to really help clients to make that happen in a practical way and then keep their sleep in a good place as well. So let's turn our attention back to this idea of evening routine. As I mentioned earlier, in this video, I'm going to talk about a very specific dynamic, but I'm also going to talk about how this shows up for a client when the client wasn't yet quite aware of how some of his behaviors will influence what actually happens with his sleep. So this client hasn't yet fully overcome his sleep problems, but it's really very much part of the work to get him to a better place. So you'll see me talk about different things, refer to a planner worksheet that the person has submitted. So in my work, I use a lot of these different submissions so that I know exactly what the client has in place and what he might actually be missing, he or she, depending on the client that I'm working with. So here it is. I'll share with you my answer to this question about how to improve an evening routine. How can you teach your body and your mind to create separation from the daytime to the nighttime? Now, if in the last half an hour you're still continuing to do daytime activities, that tends to suggest that you're leaving them too late. So, for example, listening to a podcast either in bed or just before bed is feeding more information to your brain. That is not creating separation. You're adding. Social media, you're consuming information, you're adding. Looking at emails, you're adding more information. What we don't want to do is you keep adding more information right up until 10 minutes before you go to bed. Or let's say maybe you go have a shower. Sorry, let me just check. Do you have a shower? Yeah, so toilet break is one of the last things. Shower, teeth, brushing teeth. So you don't want to be consuming more information right up until bedtime. Because you're a thinker type. Guess what's going to happen? Your mind has to file all that information away. So I would definitely create a clear boundary of not doing any of that stuff 45 minutes prior to the lights out. Something like 45 minutes. So, for example, part of your tweaks with your evening routine can be that, so you go to bed at, bear with me one sec. So your lights out is, again, anything between 10:30 and 11:30. So that's too much wiggle room. So it needs to be more stable. That basically means that anything after 10 o'clock, if you're aiming for 11 lights out, you want to start doing less of consuming. And I mean really significantly less. 10 o'clock, 10:15, I would really be wrapping up any of that stuff. I actually put my phone on silent probably well over an hour before I even consider going to bed. There's no more coming in. For thinker types, doing more of that stuff provides an entertainment, but it equally provides a lot of information that your mind has to then decide what to do about, which means that you're not mentally relaxed. You're adding more stuff. So I would definitely have a very clear line. I would say 45 minutes before, where your phone needs to be going on silent. And phone, laptop, technology, whatever tech you use, and not to feed your brain with more information. It's a misconception when people say to me, oh, listening to a podcast relaxes me. No, the only thing it does is it distracts you and feeds more information. And normally we listen to podcasts because we're interested in the topic. Now, guess what's going to happen? If you're interested in a topic and you listen to a 30-minute podcast, your mind will want to get active about it. So any of the daytime activity stuff has to have a clear boundary, and I would normally say 45 minutes before. This is where sometimes people say to me, well, what should I fill my evening routine with? Well, slow everything else down. So if you spend 10 minutes in the bathroom, make it 20. Slow things down. Instead of rushing around, and often what tends to happen is when your lights out moves, sometimes it moves because you've forgotten something and you're squeezing it in, and then it pushes everything else further. So if you slow everything down, then you're not going to rush around so much. If you slow everything down, you're telling your mind and your body, it's time to relax, not rush around, not do one more thing. Wrap up this. Oh, I forgot that. So create a much more slowly moving flow. Now, I don't mean incredibly snail slow. I mean slower. Most of us kind of really rush through our evening routine quite quickly. Even if you just slow it down by 10%, it adds quite a bit of time to it. Again, you talked about fasting emotions. So if you're having emotions, that shouldn't be for the last 45 minutes. You need to make time before the 45 minutes to surface anything that's there. So this is where if you pack your evening in and you distract yourself with reading and watching and listening and all that, then of course your emotions will rise up because you haven't had time to actually even notice them. So this is not about perfection in terms of quietness, but slowness provides the opportunity for your body and your mind to surface whatever else is more significant. Listening to a podcast is not more important than you checking in how you're feeling, as an example. Now that you've seen and heard how I actually went through this with the client step by step, it's over to you. Let me know, if you are a thinker type, how this video has actually maybe helped you to realize something that isn't quite working with your evening routine. Now, obviously, if this situation hasn't resonated with you, then there are different ways to look at evening routines depending on what shows up with a person. But this is a good way to start exploring some of those differences that you see in your life, and how maybe one piece of this information that I shared with you actually relates to you and your life and your sleep challenges. Now, if you haven't yet, this is the time to hit that like button below. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then I would love to have you as part of my community. And you can also hit that little bell as well, so I can let you know when I post new videos on this big topic of sleep, sleep problems, and insomnia as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.